Hi, I'm going to try to do a quick explanation of what happens if you try to go back to work full time while you have a pending claim for Social Security disability. Okay, so it is not the worst thing in the world to try. People, I mean, the SSA even encourages people to try, and that's why they give people the opportunity um, to see if there is something that they can do. It could be an unusual job. It could be one that doesn't exist in substantial numbers in the economy. But if they end up doing it full time and or making above SGA, um, then great if they can handle it, right? So in line with the SSA's policy and what I think is humanity and compassion and common sense, I love it when my people find that they can do something and they like getting on there and they want to work full time and they um, don't end up needing Social Security disability. It doesn't happen often enough. However, so a lot of people won't try because they're concerned, they're nervous that it's going to trying would cancel out their case. And that's not exactly the way it works. So this is the way I look at it. If you have a pending claim and you start working full time because you've got this job opportunity and you're hoping it works out and that your body can take it or your mind can take it or the combination of whatever impairments can take it, maybe there's concessions, maybe they're really flexible with you, all this good stuff, full time. Okay, so while your case is pending and you're working full time, you are supposed to tell the SSA, and they are going to likely put a denial out for you. They might halt the medical workup because you're now working SGA. If you remember the sequential process that they have to go through when they're evaluating, the first question is the person working SGA? As you know, SGA is 1470 in this year, 2023. It generally goes up every year. Sometimes it stays stagnant depending on the economy. So if you're working more than SGA 1470 this year or full time, that would be SGA too. So if they find out and you are supposed to tell them, then they will issue a denial. But the denial would have come out probably anyway, because they're probably going to run some reports to see before they give a decision as to whether you're working. Okay, so expect the denial. And then let's say if you have a denial and you have not even been there more than a few months, you would appeal the denial just to keep the case alive in case that work effort you're doing full time is unsustainable. And by that word, I am meaning it doesn't last as long as 6 months. It's got to be something definitively less than 6 months. Okay. Can't go a day over. I don't think it can even hit the 6-month day. It's very, very black and white rule, I believe. If you have to stop working that job because of your disabilities, maybe you get terminated because you're not quite up to par that they thought you would be, that would be a positive for your case. And you would later argue, if it has to get down to argument stage, like in an ALJ hearing, that was a failed work attempt. Of course, you would show that by showing that you're still going to your doctors and you're still having the complaints. And possibly you've been complaining to the doctor about how hard the work is. So you would just appeal it. Now, if it went beyond 6 months, and again, they're going to deny you, you can appeal things, but if it goes beyond 6 months, that is not considered a failed work attempt. So we can't make that argument. But if you had been, what you would probably then be seeking to do, if you're like, but I definitely couldn't work for the time period I just started to improve enough to go back, then you might want to argue that was a closed period of disability and change your claim a little bit to be a closed period. Again, that's sometimes hard to get the lower levels to recognize and make the change in terms of the claim, but you certainly can do it at the time of hearing, and ALJs will listen and say, oh, okay, I'll consider your closed period allegations. That will only work if you were disabled for at least 12 months. So that means not working SGA during those 12 months. And you have to prove it with the medicals really, really robustly, like always. So, but that is one thing that can happen if your full-time work goes beyond 6 months and you're no longer going to be able to be considered disabled with this claim that you're currently in. Okay. But when you're first starting, you don't know if you're going to last 6 months. You've got high hopes. And I'm crossing my fingers for you, but very often it just doesn't pan out. I would say there's generally speaking a good chance it doesn't pan out. So you don't have to drop your case. They will deny you because you're working full time, and you can appeal. And then they will probably deny you again if you're still, like, on reconsideration, if you're still working full time like that. And then you appeal to an ALJ hearing. If it gets over 6 months and you were not out for those 12 months due to disability prior to going back to that new job, let's say you had filed your claim shortly after stopping work due to this, medical impairments. And you did it just as a safety, maybe you thought, sometimes it's better to wait, but not always. But by the time you get to ALJ hearing, if it becomes more than 6 months, you would continue potentially with the hearing, arguing a closed period if you have that solid 12 months and your evidence is good for those 12 months. If you went to more than the 6 months and you don't have those 12 months because, again, you filed early and you never went 12 months before you started that new work attempt, then you're going to probably want to withdraw your request for hearing, because you're not going to have the goods. There are legal barriers to that. You didn't have the 12-month duration before you went back to work at what was then called a successful work attempt, and it's a curb to your disability. Okay. There are some rare exceptions, things like subsidized jobs and stuff like that, but that's so rare, and it's not really for your typical worker heading back to work. So I won't go into it, but just know you don't have to, and I wouldn't stop a case because you're doing a work attempt. I would keep, I would let them both roll and see where the chips fall. And then if it means, not going forward, let's say you are on initial, and the initials are taking pretty long these days, and you do try to make a work attempt and it goes to 7 months, and you don't have that 12 months, they're going to deny you and you just wouldn't appeal. Or you could nip it in the butt and withdraw the whole application so you never even get that denial. That's another tactic that might have some basis of logic in it too. Might not be earth-shattering, but I think some people prefer it. Anyway, so those are your things. Like, I wouldn't drop a case until I have exceeded 6 months of success. I'm just cautious like that. But everyone can do their own thing. I just wanted to let you know that is a strategy that we often use, and it complies with everything. Again, you're supposed to report when you start going back to work. It will probably bring about a denial faster. And I'm not sure how stickly they are about it, because a lot of times I know people don't report it, just because they're trying, and they don't even know that they're supposed to. But, gosh forbid they award you and here you are working full time. Now you've got a real conundrum on your hands. So I do think you should report it, shortly after you start, maybe, anyway. Okay, that's enough for that. And I hope that answers the question, okay, of what happens if you go back to work full time and try to work full time while you have a case pending. All right, talk to you later. Bye.